back again with another review request, and this is for Common Rider 64. He wanted me to talk about review Knights of the Zodiac, which came out this year. Now, apparently, this is based on an anime, which I don't know much about, so you're going to have to forgive me not knowing the source material here, if I could talk right. I'm kind of getting over a little cold here. But, yeah, this is rough to sit through. The story real fast. So you have this street orphan named Saya. He discovers that he's destined to protect this goddess of war and save the world. But only if he can face his past and become a Knight of the Zodiac. And that's kind of the plot here to the movie. Now, the film is directed by Tomasz Baginski. The cast here, this movie, you got Sean Bean in this movie. You got Famke Janssen, which it didn't occur to me until watching the movie here. I'm like, wait a second, they were both in GoldenEye, and I'd rather watch that way more than this. You have Mark Dacascos in here. You have Nick Stahl in this movie, and the lead actor is bland. Like, the lead actor has as much personality as a ball of lettuce. And I didn't care for this lead actor. Again, the names that I just mentioned, I mean, Sean Bean, he plays a guy that kind of guides the main character to find his Cosmo, which Cosmo in the movie is kind of like your inner, power, where the guy grows, these CGI wings. And Sean Bean, I like him as an actor. Obviously, this is for a paycheck here. And it's like whenever there's like a fantasy movie with Sean Bean, it's like we have to give him some sort of like mythical exposition. It's like, okay, Sean Bean, with this paycheck, with his key words, anytime he gets to talk about mortals or goddesses, Sean Bean is in there. Sean Bean is in there. If he gets to talk about mythical stuff or deliver, mythical exposition, do I get to say key words like mortals and goddesses? And I get paid this amount? Hell yeah, I'm in. And that's Sean the Beanie Baby. And he is a good actor. I call him Sean the Beanie Baby. That's what a lot of people, well, maybe it's just me. But, he's good in other movies. Whether it be, GoldenEye, he was a great villain in that. I don't mind him in the Lord of the Rings movies. I've seen them, but they're not movies that I often revisit. But, again, Sean Bean, he's kind of become synonymous with, being in a lot of fantasy movies. Game of Thrones, he was in that. This is obviously a paycheck. Famke Janssen, she still looks good here. She's got to be in her mid to late 50s, but she still is hot. And she was also with Sean Bean in GoldenEye, like I mentioned. She's been in other movies, of course, X-Men. She was Jean Grey, The Faculty. She's our villain here, but, really, she's not intimidating as her villain. Maybe, like, her villain I thought was way better in GoldenEye because, she could crush you with her thighs. And I'm like, yeah, put me in that, position. Jean Grey. But, Famke Janssen, again, this is obviously a paycheck here. And she's not at all intimidating. Mark Dacascos, his character is like a guardian for Sean Bean. And poor Mark Dacascos, the guy can't catch a break. He came back for John Wick Chapter 3 back in 2019. And he's doing movies like this, where it's kind of really a nothing role, where he's a guardian, again, for Sean Bean. Like, if this was a totally different movie, like if this was an action movie, I would love to see them as villains. Like, have Sean Bean be the main villain, and Mark Dacascos could be like his subordinate. If this was some kind of like action movie, They would be good villains. But Mark Dacascos, he's a good guy here. There's one scene in the movie where he has a little fight with these cyborg ninjas, and it's very quickly shot. It's not much of a fight. The way that it kind of starts off, you think that, okay, it's going to be a good fight between Mark Dacascos and these cyborg ninjas. But again, it's over before you know it. But again, Mark Dacascos, I just really feel bad for, because, he's a great martial artist, great actor, and he's wasted here in this role. And, a lot of times, throughout the movie, he's mostly driving a ship. Nick Stahl, I like Nick Stahl. He's one of the things about, T3 that I don't mind. And here, out of the actors that you have in this movie, he is the one actor that is trying, because he's a villain type. Like, in the beginning of the movie, he kind of runs this little like fight club, like a little, kind of a little tournament in the beginning, and he's one of the best fighters. And then he comes into play later on in the movie where he's hired by Famke Johnson to, go after our lead character. And again, out of the actors in here, it does seem like he's trying a little bit to have fun, being a villain. Like, okay, if this was a better movie, he would be a good villain. And I like him as an actor. So he's trying, but it's just, there's so many things with this movie that just sucks. I mean, again, the lead kid actor was bland and boring. A lot of bad CGI here. This movie feels like they tried to inject a lot of like anime style with CG. So there's a lot of like splashy, cartoony CGI here with the effects. And I looked up the budget, and this film has a budget of $60 million. $60 million. I don't know if the first John Wick movie costed that much. I have to double check on that. But it just feels like an anime live action fest where there's a lot of CGI porn in your face. And the fight scenes are CGI filled. And every time they talk about with the main character, you got to find your Cosmo. And I'm like, what, Cosmo Kramer? Even he couldn't save this movie if he popped in here. So every time they mention Cosmo, here's an idea. Make a Cosmo shot game. So every time you hear that word, take a shot. Because that word comes up a lot in this movie. You got to find your Cosmo. Unleash your Cosmo. And I'm like, what, the Cosmo Kramer? And, sometimes you get bad editing in here. And the second half, like, not in the second half, but the second act of the movie, you get a little bit of training with the main character by this girl. Where he has the key to this, like, armor. And so later on in the final battle, or, leading up to the final battle, he would get this armor. And really the bad guy of the movie is this other bland actor that he tries to be intimidating, and it just doesn't work. And then, like, the last 15 minutes is a fight between our lead character and this other bad guy. And that's where I really tuned out, because the CGI was just overdone. I will admit, there was a few times where I had to stop the movie, walk around, clean up, and come back. Because this movie is 2 hours. This is a 2-hour movie. Overlong. And look, I like fantasy movies. But even for people out there, that know what this is based on, a lot of people have taken a crap on this movie. This movie gets a 4.4 on IMDb. And understandably, this is a very bad film that is rough to watch. overlong, CGI bloated, and a waste of talent. You have Sean Bean in here, Famke Johnson, Mark Dacascos, and this overlong, CGI bloated waste of time. The lead actor, played by Mackin Yu, is bland. The only slightest positive I can give this movie is Nick Stahl, because he's trying. He's trying to stay afloat. I don't mind him as an actor, but, you know, he's not given much to do. And again, this was just a rough sit. This was rough to watch. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's up there. Well, I mean, yeah, there's worse movies, like the Rollerball remake, I think, is worse. Going Overboard with Adam Sandler is definitely worse. There's worse movies. But, you know, and again, I don't mind fantasy, but this is just bottom of the barrel fantasy. And a waste of money, a waste of $60 million. Which I think, you know, yeah, definitely some of that went to Sean Bean and, you know, Famke Johnson and Mark Dacascos. But yeah, yeah, this was a bad watch. A bad movie, bad watch. And if anybody is interested in supporting the channel, I will put the link to my Patreon in the description. And there's a couple of options. General support, which goes back into the channel, but if anybody wants to pledge to that, I will give you a shout out in my next video. And there's Die Hard members, you know, which is for crediting. If you want to be credited in videos such as movie reviews, movie related topics, and other content on the channel. So there's a couple of ways to support the channel. General support is non-credited, and Die Hard members is for crediting. So, but that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.